All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. And I believe it is exactly 12 weeks to Giving Tuesday, maybe a little bit longer. Hopefully timely for you. My name is Lily Blauen. I'm the program coordinator at Forefront, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Susie Lee, who has a new title. Susie, can you share your title with us? So excited.
Yeah. I'm the director of programs at Forefront, so I'll be working with all of our community members, nonprofits, grant makers, and advisors statewide. Thanks everybody for being here.
Now, Forefront for the last few years has been leading campaigns across the state for Giving Tuesday and helping to build capacity of our partners and members in digital giving and online fundraising strategies. If you had the opportunity to participate in our I'll Give campaign in past years, we had a great time working with regional communities and community nonprofits to build Illinois-centered campaigns, and we're really excited to be with you today to talk about how you can boost your own digital giving or online fundraising strategies, and particularly how you can put those to work to help build a successful Giving Day campaign. Of course, we know that Giving Tuesday is a very popular campaign and it is coming up. So as we are talking about Giving Days, we'll be referencing Giving Tuesday directly, but we believe that we've organized this in a way that you can take these bits of information, these strategies, and apply them not only to your fundraising strategies in general, but to any Giving Day. So if you decide to go against the grain or go against the herd and create a Giving Day of your own, or if you want to create a community campaign, we'll talk about that a little bit. This should apply equally. So we'll spend just a little bit of time reviewing, talking about digital giving today. What are some of the trends that we should be aware of as we're thinking about how to engage our donors online, and then moving into steps to help prepare you for a successful Giving Tuesday or Giving Day campaign. As I mentioned earlier, we have set aside time for questions at the end, but please feel free to input them into the chat box if you think of something along the way. And following the Q&A, depending on how much time we have left, we have set aside a little bit of time to workshop, which is an opportunity for anybody who wants to stick around to brainstorm and problem solve with their peers. Some of the ideas that we're going to capture throughout today's presentation, and maybe give them a test, try out some ideas, ask questions, and really help each other get a really good head start. So with that, in preparing this workshop, I have made a few assumptions. The first is that this is the middle of, the third quarter of 2021, and digital giving or giving through use of the internet has been around for almost 2 decades now. So I'm assuming that on some level, your organization is engaging donors online. That could be as simple as having a social media account, or maybe an online donate button, or it could be a really complex virtual campaigns that you're doing. The next is that if you're here today, you have either never participated in a Giving Tuesday or Giving Day campaign, or if you have, you've never organized one for yourself. Just as we move through, we'll kind of check in and see where everybody's at. We do want to test where you are and what you need. So before we get started with our content, I'd like to know what all of you are hoping to get out of today. We know that your level of experience really could range a broad spectrum. So we want to know what it is that you're looking for. And we're going to use an online poll to find out. This is using Mentimeter. So Susie is going to share this link in the chat. I'm not sure, you can try to engage on the screen, but I'm not sure if you're able to. So check the chat. There is a link there that you can follow. And it's an open-ended question. So what is your, maybe your number one goal? And if you're having a hard time accessing that, please also feel free to put it in the chat. And I want to see if we can share that progress live. Oop, nope, not that one. No. Thank you, Susie. Let me try this again. You want to make sure that you leave with the information and the tools that, that you need to move forward. Oh, excellent. I see these coming in. Ideas and strategies to increase digital giving in general. I apologize if you can't see this right now. We're going to try one more time to see what we can show, just to get a sense so you can all see who else is in the room with you. Yes. So we've got tangible tips and best practices for running an end of year giving campaign. And we'll definitely talk about how you can use Giving Tuesday or a giving day to kick that off. What the recent digital fundraising trends have been, especially with COVID. Yeah, I'm definitely going to cover that. A refresh on digital giving basics. Wonderful. Some best practices for digital giving. Storytelling tips. Can definitely talk about that. All right. So feel free to keep sharing those. I'm going to go ahead and bring my presentation back up. Are you seeing the presentation?
Lily,
yep,
seeing your notes.
You can. Woohoo!
Folks are getting a preview.
Oh no. Let's try this again. Appreciate everybody's patience. We're still trying to figure out technology, it seems. All right, so we want to share. Everybody see it now?
Looks great now.
All right, excellent. Okay, so it looks like just about everything that you've brought up, we're going to cover. If we don't, again, please feel free to jump in and ask questions. We want this to be interactive. There is a huge advantage to being able to connect with your peers and your experience. So we definitely want to bring that into the room here as well. Let's dive in. Digital giving in the US. Well, it should come as no surprise that digital giving is on the rise. And obviously, the events of the past 18 months have accelerated our shift from online and digital giving being maybe a supplementary or a tangential thing to really something that is central to fundraising campaigns. In 2020, 3.2 billion in online donations were given. That's 21% increase compared to 2019. It grew 17.2%, which outpaced growth in giving overall. And this trend upwards is continuing. This wasn't just the result of generous donors stepping up to the plate in a time of crisis. Preliminary data from January through June of 2021 shows that donors are still ready and interested in supporting the causes that they care about, and that they're interested in doing that through online channels. And just as a note, $471.4 billion were given in total last year. And I mention that to say that what I hope you walk away with here is a sense that if you're not already prioritizing digital giving in your fundraising campaign, that you should be. You should be considering how you can optimize that experience. But it's not the only way you should be engaging with donors. We are seeing donor behaviors and preferences change though. So this is something that you need to keep top of mind. You'll note that little statistic down on the bottom here, 28% of all online contributions originated from a mobile device. That's interesting to think about as you're trying to optimize what that screen experience looks like, thinking about where donors are coming from. If you're taking them back to your website, is it from social media? Whether it's from social media, whether it's from an email, the majority of that traffic is originating on a mobile device. And that extends across all generations. So what we've seen is a change in donor preferences. 63% of donors prefer to give online. That's huge. That means if you're not already giving online, and again, I'm assuming that in some way you're already engaging with your donors online. But if you're not taking time to think about what that experience is like and whether or not you're effectively engaging or converting those supporters, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table. Something else that came out of 2020 and is continuing, we're continuing to see in 2021, is that the majority of new donors are low-level givers. And in this case, that means individuals who are donating $100 or less. But we're also seeing the frequency in giving increases. So it used to be that the average donor would give 2 times a year. We're now seeing 4 to 6 donations per year. This, of course, has to do some with not just your donors being extra generous this year, but also how you are connecting with them, how you are stewarding their gifts and moving them along. Donor retention is also up. Online donor retention was at 26%. And for those of you who have been in the sector for a while, you know that retention has always been a weak point. in the sector. I believe the average tends to range at about 19%. So that means 80% of the new donors that you connect with every year aren't going to give in the coming years and are less likely to give again in the future. But we're seeing that trends in giving, which reflect consumer trends, are increasing increasing the likelihood that your donors will stick around. And one of the driving factors in this is the rise of subscription giving. 45% of worldwide donors, according to the Blackbaud Institute's digital giving report for 2020 and 2021, said that they prefer, that they are already enrolled in a monthly giving program. Not that they would like to be, but that they are. So again, this is something, if your payment processing or your online donation system doesn't allow for monthly reoccurring gifts, this might be something worth looking into. Again, we see this in our homes with things like Netflix and Hulu, even I'm thinking of BarkBox or some of the food boxes, right? This is the convenience that was born out of trends that were really already on the rise prior to 2020. But of course, social distancing and other events that happened throughout the year made this a more convenient option. And it turns out that donors like it. So again, this means that there's a huge opportunity for you to enhance your fundraising campaigns and to really capture more dollars and develop stronger relationships with your donors. Being able to connect with donors online allows you to literally meet them where they are. So of course, we saw in 2020 new donors from all over the world connecting with nonprofits. Now we know that this is more likely an unusual or an extreme example, but the more powerful your online fundraising is, right, the broader your scope, the broader your reach is. This is also true for where they are financially. Again, thinking back to that statistic about the number of, the greatest number of donors in 2020 and in 2021 are giving gifts of $100 or less, and then subscribing to those monthly programs. And this is really important that you provide and maybe even encourage, no, not encourage, express the value of those low-level gifts, right? Placing impact on low-level gifts, because it allows people who maybe can't participate in big ways to see themselves in your mission, to experience the joy of giving, right? And to find a place that meets your budget. And I'll add too that when you provide those monthly giving options, right? Somebody says, I don't have the ability to give $500 now, but maybe I could give, it doesn't even have to be $500, maybe it's $250 in my monthly budget. I can't give that up, but I could give you $20 a month or $25 a month. That would be less impactful on my budget. And then over the year, they would end up giving more. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that donors who sign up for monthly programs are actually giving greater amounts year over year. And organizations who provide that option are not only seeing more new donors, but they're also seeing greater returns and increased revenue overall. So you can meet donors where they are. It also simplifies the giving process. Imagine, think back to a time when you were processing or writing a lot of checks. Imagine a monthly giving program where you're asking a donor to send you a check every month. That becomes more difficult. And that isn't to say that there aren't still donors who prefer to give checks. Absolutely accommodate your donors' preferences. But for others, and even for yourself, this can simplify the process all around. It makes it easier to capture donor information, to track donor trends, and to really assess how your fundraising is or isn't improving. You can use things like checking on your donor retention rates or amount of giving to identify donors that might be ready to advance to the next giving level. Or you can use it to help you figure out who's maybe fallen behind or who you've forgotten about that you can then reach out to and engage. So online giving really makes this process easier and helps to make more effective fundraising practices by providing you with useful information. It also empowers supporters. Again, in 2020, we saw communities and people really come together and step up to the plate. And even if they couldn't give a lot or give it all, I feel like I saw more crowdfunding or online sharing last year than I've ever seen before. And so by providing mediums and avenues, pathways for your donors to not only tell your mission and share your mission with others, you're empowering them, right, to have an impact, to make a difference, and to drive that traffic to your organization. And of course, as I've mentioned before, online giving at its best is increasing donor retention. And interestingly, some of this just has to do simply with automation processes. I forget the exact number, but if anybody wants it, I'd be happy to look it up. Something about, I think it's 60% of reoccurring gifts, even if it's an annual gift that's set up on a credit card, for example, those donors stop giving because the card lapsed or something happened with the system and they either weren't notified and nobody followed up. So it's really just bad information, bad automation. So again, the more you can think about the online experience and how it can support your efforts and make your life easier, and also make it easier for your donors to give. They want to give, they want to support you. So the better you can make that experience, the better for your organization. I want to pause here and just see if there are any questions so far that have come through. Feel free to write them in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute yourself and share in real time. Any questions about the trends or maybe your experience of them? All right, not seeing any come through. So when we talk about digital giving, again, we're talking about a broad range of tools and strategies that nonprofits can use to drive traffic, steward and cultivate donors, and engage with the general public. And one of course, the most popular strategies, and the reason we're all here today, is to talk about Giving Day, specifically Giving Tuesday. So I know some of you shared this already in your expectations, but I'm just curious to see what the experience level is in the room with Giving Day. So we had a couple of people who were looking for digital giving best practices specifically, and others maybe who are looking for a refresher. So this is where you can use those reaction buttons. You can use the oh my face, the face with the open mouth, if you've never participated in a Giving Day campaign. And I would say as a fundraiser. So if you've seen one, right, or you've maybe shared a social post, I wouldn't count that for our purposes as having participated. But if you've never participated in a Giving Day before, a thumbs up if you've maybe participated as a fundraiser, or you've helped, you've participated in some way, but you've never organized or planned one. And then show a heart if you've led a campaign before, but as I mentioned, maybe you're here for a refresher or it's the first time. Maybe you're running it by yourself. Maybe you've been a part of a team. Again, if you've never used the reactions before, You can scroll, hover over the bottom of your screen, say reactions. You can share the emoji that best represents where you are. All right, we're seeing them come in. Excellent. So like I said, hopefully there's enough content here where whether or not you've done this before, you're going to get something out of it that I think will be useful to you. But it's just always helpful to see who is in the room. Okay, so feel free to keep sharing your reactions, and we're going to dive in. Just for those of you who have never done this before, because we do have a few with us today, a Giving Day is a 24-hour fundraising event. It typically focuses on online giving tools like email, peer-to-peer campaigns, or even text to give. But I use the word typically because especially in recent years, we've been seeing more multi-channel approaches where you've got in-person opportunities or hybrid events. And a Giving Day, as we know, can either be part of the global, the Giving Day, right? You can participate in Giving Tuesday, but they're usually either geographically driven. So maybe that's Maryland Gives or I'll Give, or they're thematic. I think recently there was Give for Domestic Violence, which was a coalition of domestic violence organizations who came together to build a campaign. The Give Me Shelter campaign, which happens in Peoria, Illinois, is thematic, right, to help end homelessness, or it can just be a celebration for your organization specifically. Now, Giving Tuesday is arguably the most popular, not just giving campaign, but maybe the most popular fundraising campaign. This year, it is set to take place on November 30th. Again, that is fast approaching. And if you don't know the history, it was created in 2012 with a simple idea. It was just meant to be a day to encourage people to do good. And it was scheduled around on the Tuesday following Thanksgiving as a way to maybe combat or counteract the rising consumer trends that we see in things like Black Friday or Cyber Monday. And so this was an answer to that, to say, okay, this is the beginning of the holiday season. We're feeling generous. Let's put that to work and do some good. And as you all know, it has grown exponentially since. And it's not just for Giving Tuesday, but because it's part of that end of year, we know that 30% of all giving happens in the last 4 months of the year. So it's really tapping into some of those trends that we see. Again, maybe this is you're encouraged by the generous spirit. Maybe there's a tax opportunity, but whatever that is, we see 30% of all giving happening in these last 4 months. So Giving Tuesday really takes advantage of that. And in 2020, $2.47 billion was raised on Giving Tuesday alone. And that doesn't include the Giving Tuesday Now, which was their emergency COVID campaign that they did back in May. 13% of US adults participated in Giving Tuesday last year. That's pretty big. That's 16.8 million people donated. So that's quite a big pool of interest and a lot of excitement around that campaign. But everybody always asks, why should you participate? Should you participate? We'll talk a little bit more about how you can make your campaign stand out if you do choose to participate in Giving Tuesday specifically. But there's lots of reasons to join the movement. And this is, again, whether or not you're participating in Giving Tuesday or hosting your own campaign, it has a lot of benefits. The first is that it's an opportunity to leverage a global movement. Everybody's heard about Giving Tuesday. Everybody, for the most part, has a general sense that it's a time to give or a time to celebrate giving and the causes that we care about. So this is an opportunity for you to strengthen relationships with existing supporters by pulling them into your campaign, maybe reignite their passion for your cause. I think this is especially important this year if you were an organization that had to hibernate last year, or you needed time to develop your online marketing and outreach, that this is an opportunity for you to remind your community and your supporters that you're here, that you've got big plans for the future, and that you need them to have an impact on your community. It's also an opportunity to expand your audience and meet potential new donors. Like I mentioned before, we're seeing new donations are increasing. This was true in 2020. This continues to be true now. I believe as of June 2021, organizations were reporting a 7% increase in new donors compared to 2019, actually. And that had increased also from 2020. So we know that we have new philanthropists joining the sector, and this is an opportunity for you to spread the word. And again, leveraging that global movement that is Giving Tuesday, attaching your campaign to popular hashtags or logos, right, is a way for you to get your mission in front of a new audience. It's also an opportunity to raise more funds or meet other organizational goals. And we'll talk about that too. How if you weren't planning on having an online campaign, Giving Tuesday can be a really easy way to maybe pop in and generate some funds, get your donors excited. You can also use it to test out maybe your social media prowess, right? You could use it to increase your followers. You could use it to help understand your donor preferences better. So it's a good time to try something new, especially if you're participating in Giving Tuesday. It can be low stakes participation, right? You can make a TikTok video and it's not, you don't have the weight of your full fundraising goals right on the line. And it's fun. It can be a really fun way to bring your volunteers together to engage your board, to engage staff if you're lucky enough to have staff with you, and to activate your community around philanthropy, around your mission. It can be a lot of fun to get involved in this global event. But not all campaigns are the same. There's a few things that help Giving Tuesday campaigns stand out, and they're also at the heart of why Giving Days work. The first and most important thing is that they build a sense of urgency, right? We have, whether it's 24 hours or maybe it's a couple of days, there is this sense that now is the time to give, or there's never been a better time to give, or if you're leveraging matching grants, right? Give now so we can do this moving forward. So that 24-hour time period or that shortened campaign creates a sense of urgency. And we know from studies about giving trends that urgency increases output. That excites donors, that excites the community. Think about when you hear about a one-day sale, right? Again, this notion of how giving trends mimic consumer trends. So if you think about what's trending in terms of how businesses are engaging, think about how those translate to your fundraising strategies. The other is specificity. So Giving Tuesday is a huge, nebulous, all-encompassing campaign, but organizations that can be specific about why now, what, and what impact it will have tend to see greater results. And again, we'll talk about what you can do, some of the questions you can ask to really hone in on that. But the more specific you can be, the easier it is for donors to attach their participation to impact, right? And then there's convenience. Giving days don't only rely on social media, but social media tends to be one of the biggest players when it comes to Giving Tuesday, especially. This is whether or not you're doing just sharing information, driving traffic to your website, or if you're participating in peer-to-peer fundraising. It's easy not only for your supporters to spread the word with their networks, but it's convenient, right, for donors, new and current, to give and to see what you're up to, really. It's easy for them to get involved. The most important piece, of course, of any campaign is preparation. So if you've never organized your own Giving Day or Giving Tuesday campaign, you're looking for a refresher on some steps to get started, we've got 7 essential steps to help you succeed. The first is establish your goals. We know that campaigns that have a clear goal are 2 times to 3 times more likely to succeed. And establishing your goals first is really going to help you answer a lot of questions along the way. Now, raising money, we all need more funds for our mission. So it is important to think about what the monetary opportunity is with Giving Tuesday. But like I said, it's meant to be about giving in general. It's a celebration of philanthropy. And so it's an opportunity to really grow in other ways. So maybe you are hoping to raise some money, but maybe you'd like to engage some new donors. Maybe you'd like to try out a new monthly giving option or test out email messages to see which messages are more impactful. Maybe your board has been a little disengaged over the past year. Maybe they were disengaged before 2020. So think about what your goals might be beyond the dollars. And if you haven't already heard of SMART goals, the more specific, again, this idea of specificity, the more likely you are to achieve them. So if you're not familiar with that acronym, SMART is specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, reasonable, and timely. I had a question come in. What if we need to do all of the above? Claudia, thanks for asking that. And I stopped because I think that's a really great question. I would recommend that you focus only on 1 or 3. This is maybe one of the goals is to practice focusing on one goal, right? Because you're right, it is so hard to do that, especially when our organizations have need, have a need when we have growth or we see opportunities and we want to be able to take advantage of them. And I would say too, if you're trying to think about which to prioritize, think about the big picture. Don't forget, think about what your organizational goals are, what your strategic goals are, and then look back and say, how can we use this campaign as an opportunity to support or enhance those goals? Susie, I see your hand up, sorry.
Not at all. I just wanted to add in one more thought about if you need to do all the things. I've worked with organizations across the state of all different sizes, and one of the organizations I worked with had a really great idea where they picked 2 topics that they were going to prioritize with their staff. If I remember correctly, they chose like new donors and donor retention were their staff goals. Then they reached out to board members and other volunteers and said, okay, these are our other goals. We'd love to have somebody else that can take this up and move forward with it. So that kind of stretched the capacity of their goals, but they also clearly knew, like, these are the ones that we absolutely want to see progress in, and these other goals would be really great, but our staff time isn't going to be there. So I hope that might be another example of how to tackle many things at the same time. Also, one last thing, always giving ourselves permission to rest. There will be another year. So I think it's a great thing to be able to try new things, but if we burn out the first year, then we don't get to try more things next year. So hope that's helpful. Thanks, Lily.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Susie, I love that idea of activating different parts of the team to accomplish different goals. And thank you, Claudia, again for that question. So yeah, what do you want to accomplish? And I do want to give just a little bit of time. So again, this is to kind of help you use this time to work through some of your ideas. If you haven't done it already, take a minute or two to write down some ideas for your goals. What are goals maybe you already had coming in to this session? Have they changed at all based on what we've talked about? Have you gotten new ideas? Write down a few goals. Remember to be specific. So if it's new donors, how many new donors? How will you measure it? So you know that you've succeeded. And if it can, if you have a good idea of those organizational or strategic goals, how can it support it? And if this is your first time doing a campaign or writing, coming up with goals for Giving Tuesday, if you're able to reflect on some of the trends that you've seen over the past year or even prior to 2020, right? How have other online campaigns done? If you've never done it before, it's really going to be your best guess. So try to, again, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is not your final draft, right? These are just some ideas of goals you might want to accomplish. And again, these will be helpful as we move through the next 6 steps, so you can make sure that your strategies and your plans are really helping to support your goals. All right. So once you have a sense of what you want to accomplish, what your goals are, what your objectives for the day are, you can start thinking about what your messaging will be. How will support from your donors make a difference? What impact will it have on your community? Think about, again, you want to be specific. You want to be clear and compelling. You want to connect to tangible outcomes so that your donors understand what their impact is. And if you have year-end goals, or again, thinking about those big organizational goals, you can tie that messaging to the big picture, right? How is a gift today going to help you fulfill that big dream or reach the next level? And being specific, again, not just about what you're asking for, but maybe you're not hosting just a general fundraiser. I think a lot of times people come into Giving Tuesday, especially with the sense that, oh, we're gonna try and connect with as many donors as we can and raise as many dollars as we can. And that's great. Of course, we want you to have all the money and all the donors and all the followers. But when you can really be specific about what you're asking for, we see exponential increases in the amount of money that people give, in the likelihood that they will return and continue to give to your mission, and the sense of accomplishment that they feel. So it doesn't, again, have to necessarily be, we want to raise $10,000 because that's how much is missing out of our annual budget, or that's what we said we would raise. Maybe you have a specific project or program that you're trying to start, or you want to build into. Maybe you're already doing that. This is already part of your fundraising, but think about what that messaging could be. Where are you investing in your organization? How are you helping those that you impact? And can you kind of wrap a campaign around that? You could also do it around something tangible, something like capital. I don't remember who it was, but a few years ago, there was an organization that used Giving Tuesday to raise money to buy a new printer so that they could print their posters and flyers and marketing materials in-house. So they had a small monetary goal and they succeeded. They were able to buy it outright. It was very clear what they were asking for. People knew exactly what impact it was going to have. But if you're hoping to get a little more help towards your mission or towards your programming, there's an example here of a call to action, right? Or your case for support. In 24 hours, we're raising $50,000 to provide 50 women the opportunity to go to university. One of my favorites is actually from an organization I work with in Knox County called Loving Bottoms Diaper Bank. And if you can't read this, it says, "This Giving Tuesday, we're going big. We are aiming to raise funds to purchase diapers for 805 babies. That is 1 month of our diaper distribution and 144% increase over our pre-COVID distribution." And then it's very simple directions on how to get involved. It provides a donation option and also a share option. So we see them working towards two goals. They're raising money and also building that awareness. And you can't see the subtitle that was under it, but these statistics that they shared showed the additional impact of providing diapers for babies. And that was that mothers felt a reduction in stress, that they were able to pay a bill, and there were a couple others on there. So again, being really specific about what it is that you're raising funds for and how your donors can make a difference. So we've got our goals. If you haven't already started thinking about how you might articulate that, maybe write down 2 or 3 sentences now. What are you trying to accomplish? What impact will it have on your community or your organization? Right? Are you going to put diapers on 805 babies? Are you going to employ artists, provide arts education? You're going to revitalize a part or clean up a part of your community? And what can I, me, the donor, do to make a difference? Whether that's giving, whether that's joining your mailing list, volunteering. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel either. If you already have a campaign message or a case for support that you're really proud of and you think that it captures your goals already, use it. What are you trying to accomplish and how can I help? All right, so once you have a sense of your goals, you have maybe a draft of your case for support or your ask, your call to action. Now is a good time to assess your resources, see where you're at. Before you really get into the planning of your giving day, it's important to see what you have to give and what you might need. So you want to look at your time, your talent, your technology, and of course your budget. Time. How much do you need? Well, good rule of thumb is about 3 months or 12 weeks of planning. So if you're starting right now, you are ahead of the game. Average campaign takes about 1 to 2 hours a week. This is really going to depend on what you already have at your disposal. So if this is a campaign message that you've tried before, or maybe you're continuing a campaign from earlier in the year, maybe you're close to completing a monetary goal and you want to finish it off, right? You might not need as much time. If you're an organization that already has a lot of visual assets, maybe you've been collecting images or been playing around with video, right? Kind of just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you've already got at your disposal. And then of course, how much time you'll need as you get closer to the day, again, depends on what, how big your plans are, how ambitious your plans are. So just think about what you've got coming up. Be honest about where you're at now. You know, Susie, I think you gave great advice at the beginning to rest, right? If you can only give an hour a week, fine. If you can only give 30 minutes, great. As you're thinking about what that giving day is going to look like, just give yourself that space, give yourself that respect, right? To say, here's what I have to give. And I say you, I mean, maybe this is your organization as a whole. Well, Barbara, thanks for pointing that out. It says, she says if it's 3 months prep, we should have started on 8:30. That, it really depends. I've seen you need 12 weeks. I've seen 8 weeks is really all you need. I've seen 7 days to boost your campaign. So I think even if we are a few weeks behind, we're catching you up here. And I think it'll be, I believe that there's still plenty of time to build an effective campaign, even if you're really squeezing this in right at the last minute. All right, so you've got a sense of what time you have. Now let's talk about your talent. Who might be able to help? Are you a one-person staff, or do you have a development team? What about your board? How engaged is your board? Is there anybody on your board that you think would be willing to advocate on your behalf, who might have, maybe they've got some marketing skills, who might be interested in helping plan? If you've got volunteers or donors who say things like, I wish I could do more, or who continue to give or participate in your events, they might be a really good candidate. This might be a great way, instead of asking them for dollars, to say, you know, we need your help spreading the word. We need your help building out this campaign. We'd love your feedback. We'd love your ideas. Or again, if they've got a special skill, see if they are willing to lend that talent to your campaign. This is also true for your clients or your participants or alumni. Again, not knowing exactly what kind of organization you have, but these are the people that you work with, the people that you impact. Will they be willing to fundraise on your behalf, to share their story, to help advance your mission, right? To help get the word out. We know that storytelling is one of the most effective fundraising tools. People remember it, are far more likely to remember it than statistics alone. And we know that it creates that personal connection. We want to see where we can, the human connection. So who is in your network that might be able to help plan the campaign, who might be able to participate on the day of? or maybe can fundraise on your behalf. And also think about community partners. In 2020, there were 240 collaborative Giving Tuesday campaigns. We know that we saw just collaboration expand across the country of people coming together and saying, together, right? Together we can do anything. So if, again, you find that you don't have the staff, board, or volunteer support that you need, and even if you have those people, right, thinking about whether or not they have time to give, whether or not how they can participate, think about your community partners. Is there another nonprofit you could collaborate with? Is there another organization who's had a really great campaign and you'd like to learn from them? In my experience, most organizations, most leaders are happy to connect and share their words of wisdom or share their resources. Maybe they can give you a sample of copy, right? Whatever you can do to build up that toolkit. You can also think about business supporters, right? Are there business supporters? Are there organizations, not organizations, are there businesses that you already have relationships with that might be willing to help amplify your message? I think a really good example of a business partnership is that isn't asking for money if you're concerned about asking for a monetary gift, is having a business put your campaign information on their marquee, right? Maybe you can ask the local bank to just highlight Giving Tuesday, just to drive that traffic even more. Or again, to say we support XYZ organization, text to give if you have that option, or visit this website. QR codes are a thing that are becoming really prominent, which allows you to put a physical image up anywhere. And if you have a phone with the ability to take a picture, right, that's instant connection to your website or your campaign page. So a community partnership could be as simple as asking somebody to put that flyer up in their window. You can also think more specifically about how they might boost your campaign by potentially maybe giving a portion of sales to your organization, sales from Giving Tuesday specifically to your organization. Maybe they'll sell a specific item. We've seen that before where there's like a specialty item and a percentage or all of the proceeds of that item go there. So it becomes a collaboration where you are driving people to their business. Their business gets to show their support for the community, gets to show off their values, and then hopefully they actually do care about your mission, and so they can feel good about the impact they're having. And I did see that question about examples of nonprofit collaborations or organized community collaborations. Sometimes it's hosting an event. I mean, again, it kind of depends on what you're doing. So if you could find mission similar organizations. There was an Arts QC campaign a few years ago that everybody had the same campaign logo. They put, I think it was 4 or 5 different organizations that came together. So they were able to build one themed campaign, and they raised dollars collectively on that day. And then they divided the spoils up evenly amongst them. So that's a very basic way, is you can lean on mission similar partners. Or maybe partners, if you're in like the healthcare industry or some kind of social service or care, you could find other organizations that help support that system of care in your community, right? And maybe show how giving within that system, how giving to any or all of you can support the system as a whole. Sometimes it might just be that you agree to share each other's posts, or you could fundraise on behalf of somebody else. We've seen that too. Coral Dynamics in Galesburg did that all throughout the pandemic, actually, where they held peer-to-peer fundraisers for other arts organizations who had supported them in the past. So thinking about who has a mission alignment maybe, or similar values, or you're working towards similar outcomes, and thinking about how you can lift each other up and support each other. Well, and I'll also add that it could just simply be geographic. We talked about the geographic campaign. So creating a branded Giving Tuesday campaign where you are participating in the event on the day, but you're calling it I'll Give is a really great example. Within the Illinois campaign that Forefront used to run, we had regional campaigns. So we had I'll Give Fox River Valley, I'll Give Springfield, and each of those areas that came together to kind of develop a unique message that helped support that area specifically. So it allowed them to share those resources regionally, but then still organizations in each area could then independently fundraise. But they worked together to kind of amplify, right, that campaign and amplify the message. All right, so thinking about your team, if you haven't been doing this already, this is another chance to take a moment and try to write down some potential candidates. Think about who on your staff or your board might participate. And again, this can either be part of the planning process, or maybe this is on the day of. Board members especially, it's great to engage them either as ambassadors by having them share emails or posts on social media. It's really great to engage them in the appreciation process. So I'm asking your donors your board members to be on call to thank your donors or to write letters after Giving Tuesday. Who's in your network that might be interested and able to help you out? All right, so once you have, we've got our goals, we've got a good start on our message, we have a sense of who our team maybe is or can be. What about our tech? Right, online giving is all about technology and what we have at our disposal. And in your expectation messages, you're talking a lot about how to optimize or improve that. And I know that not all organizations have the same access to digital resources. So this is just an opportunity to kind of check in and see where you're at. Again, what's available. It's not a judgment, just what you have at your disposal. So think about your website. Hopefully you have a website. We know, again, that one of the key elements of converting donors is having a branded space for them to connect with your mission, to learn more about what you do, and then, of course, to give. So one, do you have a website? And if you do, is it customizable? Can you create a campaign page, right? We know that some platforms like Wix or Square allow for ease of editing. There are others like WordPress that require perhaps a bit more skill. And it depends on what kind of hosting platform you're using, right? So think about not just if you have a website, but what kind of control you have over it. Can you change your messaging? How easily can you do that? Can you create a branded campaign page where you're directing people to stories and content that are going to help support your ask? Again, I'm assuming that all or most of everyone here is already accepting online donations in some way. But how flexible are your payment options? Some of the trends that we've seen, of course, we're watching online giving in general rise. We're seeing decreases. Oh, we have an upset puppy. Decreases in use of credit card or preferences for credit cards. This doesn't mean if you don't have, or if you have a credit card processor, you shouldn't use it. But we're seeing rising interest, especially from younger generations, in things like Apple Pay, those digital wallets. So just, again, checking in, if you can accept online donations, how flexible are those options? Is it credit card only? Can you control the dollar amounts at all? Can you control your donation form? How customizable is that? And if it's not easily customizable, do you have access to a platform or a designer who can help build that out for you? Next, of course, is email marketing. Are you engaging in it? Do you have a system that allows you to segment or automate features? This can be really helpful, right? When you're thinking about your goals, think back to your goals. Think back to your goals. If one of them is to reach out to past donors or donors who participated in a certain campaign, automated or segmenting features can allow you to send different messages to different donors, depending on their current relationship with you, what you know about their preferences. So again, do you already have access to tools like this? And if not, do you have the budget to get it? There are plenty of free options that can help you do that. But again, what do you have available to you? How can you test and measure your campaign for the future? What about your social media? We know that 79% of donors have at least one social media account. So what social media platforms are you on? And what kind of following do you have? So again, it's not just, do I have it, but how many followers do I have? How active are they? Because again, it's not as simple as we're going to go on social media and share our message. Well, if your specific donors or your audience don't know to engage with you in that way, you might have to go through a few extra steps to help support them so that they know how they can best support you. So think about your social media, how active it is, or if there's any that you'd like to experiment with maybe. Another big one is mobile responsive. I shared in the beginning that current trends are showing greater preferences for mobile giving. There's a 28% of all donations were made from a mobile device. And I believe it's the Giving in USA report showed that 58% of traffic to a website originated on a mobile device. So, and that was also, people are reading emails right on their smartphones. We live and breathe in our smartphones. So think about how each of your platforms interact on a phone. How do they look? Is it easy to read? I know that I've definitely opened up some screens before on my phone, and the the copy wasn't responsive, so it was really small. It was really hard to read. Right, you want to make it easy. You want to make it inviting. So the more steps donors have to go through to get to the donation page, right, the harder it is for them to follow or click through that experience, the less likely they are to give. And more donors are doing that on their phones. So is your website mobile responsive? If it isn't, is that an option that you have? And then lastly, peer-to-peer. Have you ever run a peer-to-peer campaign before? And when I talk, we'll talk a little more in depth about that later, but does your site, do you already engage some kind of fundraising platform like Give Lively or Give Better or Network for Good that allows you to engage supporters, engage fundraising ambassadors, right? What is the level of options that you have? Peer-to-peer options, right? Could also be social media. So again, do you have social media? Do you have followers that might be willing to advocate on your behalf? Just think about where you're at and what you have. And something that you can do if you haven't ever done it is, again, to optimize that donor experience. We know that you have about 1 second and 1 to 3 clicks to get a donor from curiosity to interest to donation, right? So the more complicated your giving experience is online, the more confusing it is, and the more pages that you send me to, the less likely I am to give. A really great way to engage maybe your board members or a donor who likes to give advice is to ask them to go through your online giving experience. So maybe this is starting from an email appeal. This is really common, or social media. Make sure it clicks to a website or your donation page. And have them complete the process, make a test gift, and then provide feedback. What was that experience like? Were there any pain points? What would have made them more likely to or not to give? You can also do this yourself, but if you're looking for ways to engage some of your supporters, this can be a really great way to get real-time feedback from the people whose opinion you're most interested in. The last resource you need to take a look at as you're thinking about what your giving day is going to look like is your budget. So do you have a budget? Have you set aside dollars for this campaign? Or is it we don't really have, or do you have no budget? Is it, we see this as an opportunity, but we don't want to spend any money on it? Generally, it's recommended that if you're part of Giving Tuesday, that 10% is a good, 10% of your dollar amount goal is a good gauge for how much money you might want or need to invest. But there are plenty of options that would allow you to, I believe, have a very rich and robust campaign without spending any dollars. But then I'm reminded of that adage, you have to spend money to make money. So it really depends on what your goals are, what your campaign is, and then what you already have available. So again, do you already have pictures that you can use to boost your campaign? Do you have a platform that allows you to engage donors easily online, or do you need to consider engaging a third-party fundraising site? There are lots of free options out there, but it depends on what you want and what you need. So I think that just be aware of it. Do you have money set aside to spend or not? Because again, this will change how you think about putting your day together. And don't forget to work harder, work smarter, not harder. You can save time and money by taking advantage, not just of free platforms and web tools like MailChimp or Survey Monkey or Give Butter or Give Lively, but also resources. Visit givingtuesday.com. They have an entire workbook with a 12-week communications calendar that can help provide direct and tangible content for you, right? This has been going on for almost 2 decades now. So search past campaigns, get ideas on how other people are messaging, find mission similar organizations and see what they've done in the past. We will also be sharing tools and resources, right, that you can use. They're all over the internet as well. But you can also look within your own organization. What are some of the marketing materials that you've used in the past? What are some of the messages or stories or calls to action that have been the most successful? Not just in the last year, but in the last several years. Think about what has moved your donors, right? What you can reuse and recycle or upcycle. And then again, don't forget that there are others out there who have done this before. There are many right here in this room. So if you have resources to share or you need them, reach out to your peer networks and see if they can offer any tools to help you. Oh, thank you. Susie just shared an example from 2019. The match, I think that was for an earlier question. But yeah, work smarter. There are tools out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of things that can help kickstart this. All right, so we've reassessed our goals, or not reassessed our goals, sorry. We've assessed our time, our talent, our technology. Now it's time to go back and look at our goals. Based on what we know about our time and our talent and technology and budget, are our original goals reasonable? Are they big and ambitious but still attainable, or are they impossible? And maybe the better word there is improbable or more difficult. Again, based on your time, your resources, and your talent. And Susie, I see your hand up there.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't catch you before you moved on. There was one more piece I wanted to add to looking at your community and looking at your peers. Something I have done over the years, I still do, is just start Googling. So Giving Tuesday, I'm from Richmond, Indiana, 2020, or if I know a specific organization, I'll Google them, and I just put in a bunch of keywords and just see what comes up. Facebook and Instagram are really rich resources for examples, and sometimes it can spark an idea of like, oh, this organization did this thing, and it doesn't even have to be local. I mean, you can steal / borrow ideas from huge organizations that are out there as well. I mean, folks have done really amazing parodies on Coca-Cola and McDonald's and all sorts of other types of commercials. So ideas can come from anywhere. I like to just set that side of time, like, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I'm going to Google some stuff and I'm just going to let ideas come in. And that can be a great way to get started so you don't have to start from a blank piece of paper.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great suggestion. And you know, we're going to share our contact information too. So if you aren't sure where to get started, if you're looking for some of those resources, again, we're going to share some at the end, but reach out. Happy to be a part of your network also. All right, so we've established our goals, we've started crafting our message, we've looked internally to get a sense of what we have available to us. Now we want to start mapping out our giving day. And this is the part that I think is the most fun, because like Susie said, one, there's a lot of really good examples out there. A giving day can be so many things. So what will your Giving Tuesday or your giving day look like? again, thinking about your goals, thinking about what you have available or what you think you can get access to between now and November 30th. What's that day going to look like? Is it going to be online only? Are you only going to do social media? Maybe you're only doing social media stories, or you're going to do some direct crowdfunding. Maybe you're going to host a volunteer event. And instead of asking for money, you're going to try and engage new members of the community with your mission, or help out another organization. Are you going to host in-person events? Of course, being aware of what's going on with the Delta variant and other personal things that might be going on within your community. You know your communities, you know your donors. So I add that because I know there are people who are starting to engage and who are comfortable coming together. And if not, maybe there's a hybrid option. Again, what is that going to look like? What makes the most sense for you? Is it going to be one day or several? We've seen lots of campaigns that start a few days before Giving Tuesday or extend around it. So maybe there's a couple days leading up and then a couple days behind to help you stand out, to help increase the amount of donors you can engage or the amount of dollars you can raise. Loving Bottoms, the organization I mentioned earlier, uses Giving Tuesday to kick off their 12 Days of Giving campaign. So, you know, that's a really fun idea to kind of tap into the holiday even more. But Giving Tuesday is just a launch pad for them. Will you engage in peer-to-peer campaigns? That could be individuals fundraising for you on Facebook or through your fundraising software, or maybe that's just your board members sending emails or calling past donors and asking and sharing a little bit about what you're doing or what your plans are, and seeing if they would consider supporting your campaign, right? And like I said, or maybe you're going to host an activity or some kind of virtual event that encourages other ways to get involved. Think outside the box. This is an example of a Giving Tuesday concert, right? So they were selling tickets to a concert, and I actually believe this all happens virtually. But instead of asking people, right, for donations, they got bands to volunteer their time. And then you see there's a free ticket option, a general entrance option, and a VIP guest option. Now, again, this is virtual. So this doesn't indicate any sense of a better seat or other options. It's simply what you can give. So they're attaching these giving potentials, right, to a familiar consumer option, which is buying a ticket. So think outside the box and think about how you want your community to show up and how you want to engage your community on your giving day, around your giving day, and what you can do to kind of use it to kickstart your year-end giving or finish up a campaign. So hopefully you're have a million ideas that are starting to bubble around in your head about what this might look like. Again, maybe you were only envisioning social media, but now you think it might be nice to host a picnic. Or I think there was an animal shelter that did a dog walking party as one of their events. So it was outside, they could maintain social distancing, but they were like, hey, come and walk these dogs. And that was a chance for them to engage people, to tell them a little bit about their work, and then finding a way, you know, through a QR code or through maybe a text to give option, connecting them back to how they can impact your organization. So what are some ideas for what your day might look like? And I would challenge you to maybe think a little weird, right? This isn't the final, and this isn't Nothing is set in stone here, so maybe you'll find out that an idea doesn't work for this year, or maybe not even for Giving Tuesday, but get creative. Think about some of the campaigns that you've seen too. And Susie, you mentioned this, like we can borrow from others, not just in our searches, but in our own experiences. We've all seen Giving Tuesday happening around us. We've all seen virtual fundraising events happening. So what are the ones that maybe have been the most exciting to you? And then of course, think about who your audience is, who you're trying to reach. All right. So once you have a sense of maybe what your day is going to look like, your next step is to activate your supporters. So we've already wrote down some names for potential ambassadors. Maybe these are volunteers or donors. Maybe these are board members or past clients or partners. These are people who are passionate about your mission, and they are going to help amplify that message. They believe in you. They lend credibility to your campaign, right? So this is how you reach new donors. This is how you expand the scope and the geographic scope, right, of your reach. This is how you engage maybe board members that don't always know how to participate or what to do. So think about who that is, who has demonstrated a high level of enthusiasm for your cause, maybe by volunteering for volunteering their time, making regular or large donations. I think I said before, or expressing interest in doing more. These are the people that you want to reach out to and say, would you help share our message? And I'll note that while, again, if you're trying to raise money, you're definitely going to want to try to identify some people to engage in peer-to-peer fundraising. But this can simply be sharing of your mission, right? With my networks. Have you heard about Forefront? Did you know Forefront did this? Or whatever those messages are, whatever those stories that you tell about your organization, this is a great way to help share those stories and to tap into your network to expand that reach. If you've never engaged in, if you've never hosted a peer-to-peer fundraiser, they are some of the most successful campaigns that happen, especially around Giving Tuesday. So these are your really passionate supporters who aren't just spreading your message, but they are asking for money. Peer-to-peer campaigns are highly effective. They raise, on average, twice as much as campaigns that don't engage them. And there are lots of platforms that are free. I've mentioned a few already that can help your peer-to-peer fundraisers customize their story and get really excited and engaged in your campaign. And again, you don't need a lot of them. You think of, right, the hub and spoke model of one person in the center spreading out to their network. They can connect with, 5 to 7 potential new donors, new followers, new volunteers. So they can be really effective. They help you raise more money, engage first-time donors. Campaigns that use peer-to-peer fundraisers, again, raise more money overall. It can also be a really great way to provide options for donors or individuals who can't give right now, who don't have the ability to provide a monetary donation. Maybe they don't have time either. This is an alternative way for them to give. So by fundraising on your behalf might be a really good way for them to feel like they are contributing and that they have a big impact on your campaign. If you do engage peer-to-peer peer-to-peer champions in any form, it's important that you remember to make it easy for them, right, to to share their story and spread your awareness. So empower them, make sure they have the tools they need to succeed. Provide ready to use content and materials. Maybe this is a template for an email that says, that you share with your board, and you say, here's some areas where you can personalize this. We're asking you to share this with your mailing list. Make sure that you communicate with them often. Let them know what your plan is so that they can prepare for it, maybe even help plan, or that they can spread the word. Make it easy for them to personalize that content, and invite them to tell their story, to explain why they support your mission, why they're fundraising on your behalf, right? And why they want you, their friend, their family, their follower to participate as well. I mentioned again that if your current website or fundraising tools, online tools, don't support third-party fundraising, peer-to-peer campaigns, you might consider it. Something like Give Lively allows them, individual fundraisers, to go in, to add pictures, to create their own story, and then share a custom link. So not only does that empower them and give them agency to tell their story the way they want to, but it also connects their campaign to your overall campaign. So thinking about that data, thinking about how we can use this information in the future to test our success. And then say thank you often. It's a big job to reach out to your networks. Hopefully it's one that they enjoy doing, but make sure that they know how much you appreciate them. Most importantly, if you engage outside supporters, if you engage peer-to-peer ambassadors, make it fun. Use prizes and rewards to inspire friendly competition. You can add badges and leaderboards if you have that capability on your website or your platform to share the progress of your campaign. It's maybe you're 6% to your goal, and encourage your fundraisers to step it up. Or you can leverage matching gifts or challenges to generate more excitement. In 2019, I'll Give had a number of badges and prizes that we were awarding to nonprofits. We had the Super Supporter Awards. So that was organizations who were engaging unique donors and peer fundraisers, right, had an opportunity to use that, right, to leverage and get their supporters excited. Another really great example that I love to share is Quad City Arts. Last year did their own branded Giving Day campaign in lieu of their big Festival of Trees event. And it says, holiday cheer hour, like and share this post, and thanks to a generous donor who will match $10 for every share. And I like this one especially because, one, it's creating a match opportunity for the public. So it's creating some excitement. It's putting some urgency on the hour, but it's really unique because their goal wasn't just to raise money. They wanted to increase their social media following. So this isn't about donations. This is about the number of people who shared this really silly video that replaced their staff's head on weird Christmas dolls. It's really funny. And they had a donor who would match every share, or would essentially donate $10 for every share. So I think that's a really fun example and one that's a little out of the box to help you think about ways that you can get your community excited. And I know somebody asked about this earlier, so I'll just pop back here really quickly and talk about matching gifts. This is important not just to energize your peer-to-peer fundraisers, but this is a really great way to energize your campaign and create that, add into that sense of urgency, right? studies show that when you incorporate a matching gift into your campaign, this increases the likelihood that individuals will give by 22%. Huge, that's a really big opportunity. And they don't have to come from big corporations. Anybody can create a matching gift. This maybe is a good opportunity to reach out to your board and see if your board hasn't given already for the year, or maybe they're planning to give at the end of the year, if they would pull together funds, or if they would agree to make a matching gift. Same thing with other donors. Think about your longtime supporters, donors who really value your mission, but maybe are a little more, they're donors who maybe think a little more with their head, or they're more business minded. So you can say, hey, we can double this donation. We have the data to show that by providing a matching gift opportunity, we can increase our donations. So you're letting people know, one, that for every dollar they give, they're actually giving 2 or 3. That makes you feel good. It makes you feel like the campaign's more likely to succeed. It makes your major donors, maybe your matching donors, feel good. And again, it doesn't have to be a big corporate sponsor. You can reach out to a donor who regularly gives every year. Maybe they give around Christmas time, or typically give later in the year. Reach out and ask if they would be willing to allow you to use that annual donation as a matching challenge. Right, so you don't necessarily need to secure a new donor, although if you can, if there's a business or an individual that you've been cultivating that you think might be ready, then by all means, this is a really great time to ask and to leverage that dollar to increase your overall campaign success. All right. Hopefully that answered your question. I know it came a little bit earlier. And Rima, I did see your question about the third-party platform, so we'll talk about that at the very end. All right, so if you haven't already, this is a good time to write down some of your ideas. If maybe you have a potential matching donor, maybe you want to think about a fun challenge or contest that you could use to motivate and really inspire your peer-to-peer fundraisers. Again, this might simply be whoever raises the most money between noon and 1 p.m. Maybe they get a prize, depending on what your organization does or what you have available to you, right? Will determine what that looks like. Maybe it's just you give them a shout out on social media, but think about that. What can you do to empower and energize and show your support for your supporters and get your community excited about giving? Claudia, thanks for that question. Claudia asked about language on matching gifts. I believe there is a template from Classy on this that I can share with you. Susie, I don't know if you have any particular language off the top of your head that you've seen in leveraging matching gifts in terms of making the ask, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so last year we received, I'll be quick, I know we have to get going. Last year we received $25,000, which were really easy to just create, like, matching, campaign, and we raised, we surpassed, our goal was 30,000. So we did that. This year, the matching gift that we received is slightly smaller, right? But still can be very powerful. It's $10,000. We still need to raise those 30,000, right? Mm-hmm. So we are in receipt of those funds before, we start our campaign. So it's that, right? How do we, use it to leverage, to, like, I guess $2, right, per you know, to match $2, you know, of the funds. And also since we have already received the funds, right, before we start the campaign.
Yeah, and Susie, you might have some additional thoughts about this. What I've seen before is you kind of omit, if you already have the funds,
Yes.
that you just say, you know, this is our match for every dollar that's donated. It's really like designating. That's why I would think of it. If your board or your employee or your development staff would say, oh, we're designating this money for this project, then that kind of flows through into your campaign language. You can say, you know, of this, you know, within this hour or on this day, up to X amount of dollars. So if you have 10,000, say up to $10,000, we're going to match this. Or if it's a literal, like, we'll give you more money, you know, if your donor says we'll give you 10, but if you can raise an additional, you know, 30 or 30, gosh, if you can raise an additional 5, we'll give you, you know, X amount more. I think you can be really transparent about that. And I believe Susie has shared something too from GiveGab, the platform we use with on I'll Give.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, so thinking about some of the language I've seen that I really like is like unlock an extra dollar for every, or unlock this matching grant or this matching opportunity. So I find that really kind of energizing to think about. But yeah, just to designate those dollars, or say we'll designate, and then hopefully what Susie shared will provide some more examples for you there. All right, so once you have that, the main thing that you want to do after you have a sense of what your day is going to look like and who your supporters are going to be is to create your communications plan. This is literally how you're going to inspire your audience to give, how you're going to spread your message and share your stories about your audience. Who currently are you reaching out to? Who would you like to be connecting with? Which platforms do you currently use? Which ones are successful? Which ones maybe do you want to improve or enhance? And how will your message and your needs change based on which platforms or pathways you want to use, right? Email might require more copy. Facebook, we know that pictures and stories really drive sharing and interest in Facebook. And videos are becoming fast becoming the preferred method of how we receive our information, especially on Facebook. So think about the platforms that you want to use and what are the visual and material assets that you might need to communicate on those channels. And I want to remind you that even though we're talking about social media and social media as the main driver of these, of Giving Tuesday especially, and giving days, don't forget about email. Email still accounts for 1/3 of all online revenue that is donated. So there's a great sample here. Some statistics here that show you by generation how they prefer to give and which platforms they're most inspired to give through. And baby boomers still prefer email, and even millennial and Gen X donors, we're still looking at 23 and 26% preference email. So this is still an effective mode of communication, and it's an important one. The average donor in the US is 64 years old. So definitely use Giving Tuesday, use social media, because this is where it's going to be easy to share and easy to engage donors. But don't forget about email and some of those other pathways. Think about what your donor preferences are, and again, what's worked in the past, maybe what you'd like to improve on. And once you have a sense of that, create a calendar. This can be really helpful in organizing your day, in letting your supporters, your board, your team know what to expect, and help keep you on top of the content that you're going to need. So think about what communications need to go out as you lead up to your giving day? Are you communicating with your ambassadors, with your supporters, with your donors? They recommend that you do a soft launch. Giving Tuesday recommends a soft launch about 2 weeks prior to Giving Tuesday. So you can kind of test out your campaign, start to build excitement, maybe make adjustments before the launch of your campaign, whether that's 1 day or a week. Again, is that going to be all on social media? Is that going to be email? Are you sending out direct mail? How soon will that need to go out? Maybe you're going to be on the radio, or you have a relationship with a local TV station, right? And you can get on and talk about your campaign there. And then, of course, the follow-up. How are you going to thank donors? What are you going to communicate after your campaign is over to show your appreciation and then continue to build those relationships? And as I said before, think about what's worked in the past, what channels have been most successful for your donors, where have there been some challenges, and do you have any control over those? Can you use some of the things that we've talked about today to optimize maybe how you engage on social media or on your website? And thinking about your goals too, can we use this Giving Day or Giving Tuesday to improve or enhance any of those communication channels? Lastly, you have to think beyond your giving day. I think I've said it a few times. Giving Tuesday, especially, is often used as a launch pad for end of year campaigns, for engaging new donors that then get added to email and drip campaigns. So don't forget, as you're planning your campaign, to think about what happens after. Show your appreciation, say thank you as much as you can to anybody and everybody. Share your success, reach back out to your fundraisers and your partners and let them know how they contributed to your success. Of course, let your donors know what impact you had. This is why making sure that you can measure your goals and measure the impact throughout the campaign are really important, so that you can turn around and say, look what we did together. Stay in touch, right? If you're building up momentum and interest and awareness on the giving day, on your giving day, make sure that you're ready to follow up. This is where things like automated mailing systems can be really helpful, like MailChimp, for example, which would allow you to segment your first-time Giving Tuesday donors and build a drip campaign so that they have some kind of message or email that's automatically sent to them maybe every couple of months, right? So that they can help, you can help advance them along the donor pipeline, right? And continue to steward that relationship and bring them in closer. So if we have new donors, first-time donors on Giving Tuesday, we can use that then to connect and start building up our relationship. So if you haven't already, again, this is a chance for you to write down some ideas. It can help show your appreciation. You can get creative. Think something fun. Maybe it's a party. We've seen Giving Day success parties like 6 months later or 3 months later, where they've hosted a social of some kind. An organization has hosted a party for their biggest supporters and shared their impact. This is especially important if your goal maybe was for a program or had an impact on something that has a longer timeline. Think about how it can relate to your organization. There's one nonprofit that we work with who provides opportunities for work and independence for individuals with disabilities, and they have an art class. And so anytime you donate, they send you a card that was designed by an individual, one of their clients. And that that is a really simple, really nice way to make your donors feel good, to make your supporters feel good, and a good way to engage maybe those you're impacting in your campaign. So I've mentioned a couple of things throughout. If you want to keep diving into this, hopefully you have a pretty good start on your campaign and some ideas for what you can do to optimize that experience for your donors, to boost your engagement and outcomes. But if you're looking to dive a little deeper, of course, we encourage you to join us again for our future webinars. On October 14th, we'll be hosting a panel of Giving Tuesday All-Stars. So these are organizations who have already, who I could suggest, really excelled with their Giving Tuesday campaigns and are going to be able to provide real life examples for you and answer any questions about how to create a really stellar campaign. And then as we get a little closer to the day, we're hosting a Giving Tuesday checklist, which allows you, which will go through kind of the last looks, right? What still needs to be done? What have you got done already? We can help make sure that you've dotted all your I's and crossed your T's. There's also some reports here from the information that I've been sharing. If you're a data nerd and you really want to dive into the numbers, you can look at some of the charitable giving reports from Blackbaud and Giving Tuesday. And then there's also some toolkits talking about reusing or tapping into those resources that already exist. Those are here for you. And because Rima, I believe you asked about it before, the platforms that I was talking about, if you're interested in using a third-party fundraising platform, some that I know of that are free, or free at a basic level are Give Lively, Give Butter. Susie, is Give Gab still offering free options for organizations? Do you know?
They have some low-cost options, and they've also, particularly during COVID, they've broken out some of the things, like you can get peer-to-peer support separately from a whole Giving Day package. So yeah, let me grab the link and I'll post that as well, because they're a great resource.
Yeah, excellent. And if you have used a resource that you think is really helpful, please feel free to put that in the chat. We do have a little bit of time left. If you've got any questions, please share them in the chat or feel free to unmute. I'm happy to chat with you. And again, make sure you've got what you need to move forward. Thank you, Susie. Susie shared some free downloadable tools from GiveGab to add to that. Elizabeth, regarding text to give, she asked if there were any good suggestions for text to give. Do you mean platforms that allow it, or how to engage text to give strategies, platforms? I know that Give Lively has a text to give platform, but or has text to give options, but I would have to double check if that's free or if that's like a premium option. And if anybody on here knows, please feel free to share. And Susie, I don't know if you know of any other platforms that do. I know Mobile Cause is the big one that offers text to give, but I'm not familiar with their pricing model. But I can, if you're not familiar, Mobile Cause. And that is their like primary, was their original function anyway. So if nothing else, I know they would have some good resources for how to build out a text to give campaign. Curious if anybody's doing or planning on text to give. I think they're really interesting, and especially what we know about the rising interaction on mobile devices. It's definitely something that you should be looking into and considering. I was reading, Giving USA was talking too about the open rates for texts are in the 90% range versus email, which is down in the 60% range or less. I think the average open rate for an email is maybe 35, 36. So text to give could be a really great option. Susie says, my experience with text to give is that if you are an org with less than 1,000 regular donors, it is cost prohibitive. So depending on how big your organization is, that might not be an option yet. Or if you have a budget, maybe it is. Depends on what it is. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Claudia, and thanks for all the questions. Yes, we will follow up with a link to the recording. I'll try to find some more information on text to give also, since that came up, and the resources that we've shared in the chat, we'll make sure those end up in that follow-up email too. Oh, Rima, thanks, that's helpful. We have used mobile cause. Keep in mind, very limited characters, so we'll take time to craft messaging and campaigns. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Thank you again, everybody. There's just a few of us now, so if you do have other questions, feel free to ask them. Feel free to unmute yourself. It's always nice to hear other voices. If not, thank you again.